My husband found the photograph 3 days ago. I'd hidden it for 17 years, tucked inside a hollowed-out copy of Jane Eyre, buried in a box of college textbooks I told him I was too sentimental to throw away. 17 years of marriage, 2 children, a mortgage, a life built brick by careful brick on a foundation of silence. And now, Michael was standing in our bedroom doorway, holding a picture of me with my arm around a girl he'd never seen before. "Who is this?" he asked. His voice was calm. That's what scared me most. Not anger, not accusation, just this terrible, patient calm, like he already knew the answer and was giving me one last chance to tell the truth. I looked at the photograph. At 19-year-old me, sun-bleached hair and reckless smile, standing on a dock at Lake Champlain. At the girl beside me, dark curls, laughing eyes, a friendship bracelet on her wrist that matched the one on mine. Natalie. "She was my roommate," I said, "freshman year of college." "You've never mentioned her?" "We lost touch." Michael studied the photograph for a long moment. Then he looked at me with eyes I couldn't read. "You're lying." Have you ever built your entire life around a secret? Not a small one, not a white lie or an embarrassing story, but a secret so massive that revealing it would destroy everything you've become? If you have, then you understand the terror I felt in that moment. If you haven't, well, stay with me and tell me in the comments, how long do you think a person can hide who they really are from someone who loves them? Because I thought 17 years was long enough. I was wrong. My name is Sarah Mitchell. At least, that's the name I've used for the past 17 years. Before that, I was someone else, someone I've spent almost 2 decades trying to bury. And now, standing in the bedroom of the house I share with my husband and children, watching him hold the only photograph I kept from that other life, I realize that the past doesn't stay buried. It just waits, patient and relentless, like water finding cracks in a foundation. "Sit down," I said. "There's something I need to tell you." Michael sat. The photograph stayed in his hands, and I began to tell him about Natalie Chen, the girl I killed. 17 years earlier. I was 18 when I met Natalie. Move-in day at Bradford University, a small liberal arts school in Vermont that I chose specifically because nobody from my high school was going there. I wanted a fresh start, a chance to become someone new, someone better than the anxious, invisible girl I'd been for 18 years. Natalie was already in our dorm room when I arrived, hanging string lights above her bed and blasting music I didn't recognize. "You must be Sarah." She bounded over, hugged me like we'd known each other for years. "I'm Natalie. I already claimed the bed by the window. Hope that's okay. I need natural light or I get depressed. SAD, seasonal affective disorder. Vermont winters are going to destroy me, but I came here anyway because they have the best creative writing program, and I'm going to be a novelist. What about you? What's your thing?" She said all of this in approximately 15 seconds. I just stood there, overwhelmed, clutching my pillow like a life preserver. I don't really have a thing. Everyone has a thing. We just have to find yours. She grabbed my suitcase, started helping me unpack. "Ooh, you read. Look at all these books. Okay, you're going to be a literature major. We'll be in all the same classes. This is going to be amazing." It was amazing. Within a month, Natalie had transformed my life. She dragged me to parties I never would have attended, introduced me to people I never would have approached, convinced me to try things I never would have tried. She was fearless in a way I'd never been, bold and bright and absolutely certain that the world was full of adventures waiting to be had. "You're too careful," she told me one night. We were lying on the campus green, passing a bottle of wine back and forth, watching the stars. "You live like you're afraid of something." "I'm afraid of everything." "Why?" I didn't know how to answer that. My childhood had been fine. Loving parents, stable home, no trauma to speak of. But somewhere along the way, I'd become convinced that disaster was always just around the corner. That if I let my guard down, if I stopped being vigilant, something terrible would happen. I don't know, I said. I've just always been this way. Well, I'm going to fix that. Natalie propped herself up on one elbow. By the time we graduate, you're going to be the bravest person I know. I laughed. That seems unlikely. Trust me. She smiled, and in the starlight, she looked like someone from another world, someone magical. I'm very good at fixing people. She was. For 3 years, Natalie Chen was my best friend, my confidant, my partner in every adventure. She taught me how to speak up in class, how to flirt with boys, how to stop apologizing for existing. She made me brave. And then, in the spring of our senior year, I made a decision that ended her life. His name was Marcus Webb, senior year, spring semester. He showed up in our advanced fiction workshop, transfer student from NYU, dark hair, darker eyes, the kind of brooding intensity that made every girl in class sit up a little straighter. Natalie noticed him first. Dibs, she whispered during workshop, watching him read a passage from his story. Something about a man watching his father die. Heavy stuff, but he delivered it beautifully. You can't call dibs on a person. I just did, she grinned. Don't worry, you can have the next one. That was our dynamic. Natalie led, I followed. She chose, I accepted. It had worked for 3 years, but something about Marcus was different. He started sitting next to me in class, asking me questions about the reading, finding excuses to walk me back to my dorm after workshop. And I found myself looking forward to those walks in a way I'd never looked forward to anything. He likes you, Natalie said one evening, her voice strange. We were in our room, studying for finals, or pretending to study. I'd been staring at the same page for 20 minutes. Who? Marcus, obviously. She didn't look up from her textbook. I've seen the way he looks at you. He's just being friendly. Sarah. Now she looked at me. I called dibs. The word hit me like a slap. We were 21 years old, about to enter the real world, and she was still talking about dibs like we were children fighting over toys. He's a person, Nat, not a thing you can claim. I know that, but I saw him first. I told you I was interested. And what? I'm just supposed to ignore my feelings because you got there first? What feelings? Her voice sharpened. You've known him for 2 months. I've been interested in him since the first day of class. Maybe if you'd actually talk to him instead of just staring. I was waiting for the right moment. There is no right moment, Nat. You just have to go for it. We stared at each other. In 3 years of friendship, we'd never fought. Not once. Not about anything. Fine, she said finally. You want him? Take him. Nat, no, it's fine. You're right, he's a person, not property. If he likes you better, that's just how it is. She turned back to her textbook. Just don't expect me to be happy about it. I should have let it go, should have backed off, found someone else, preserved the friendship that meant more to me than any boy ever could. But I was tired of being careful, tired of always deferring to Natalie, tired of living in her shadow. The next day, I asked Marcus to get coffee. 3 weeks later, we were dating. And Natalie started to change. At first, it was subtle. Natalie missed a few classes, stopped showing up to our usual study sessions. When I came back to our room at night, she was either asleep or pretending to be. Is everything okay? I asked her one morning. You seem off. I'm fine. She didn't meet my eyes. Just stressed about graduation. I wanted to believe her. It was easier to believe her. But the signs kept mounting. She stopped eating in the dining hall, stopped hanging out with our friend group, started spending hours alone in the room, curtains drawn, music playing too loud. She's jealous, Marcus said when I told him about it. She'll get over it. It's more than jealousy. Something's really wrong. Sarah. He took my hands, looked into my eyes with that intensity that still made my knees weak. Natalie is a grown woman. If she needs help, she'll ask for it. You can't force someone to talk. He was right. I couldn't force her, but I could have tried harder, could have pushed past her deflections, demanded answers, refused to accept the lie that everything was fine. Instead, I let myself be absorbed by my new relationship, by the intoxicating feeling of being chosen, wanted, loved. For the first time in my life, I was the center of someone's universe. I didn't notice when Natalie stopped being the center of mine. 2 weeks before graduation, I came back to our room to find her sitting on her bed, a bottle of pills in her hand. Nat? My voice came out strangled. What are you doing? She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. Did you know I've been depressed since I was 14? What? 14 years old. Half my life. She laughed, a terrible, hollow sound. Everyone thinks I'm so happy, so fearless, so full of life. They don't know that I've been fighting just to stay alive since freshman year of high school. The bottle rattled in her trembling hands. Nat, please put those down. You were supposed to be different. Tears streamed down her face. You were supposed to see me, the real me, not the performance I put on for everyone else. I do see you. No, you don't. You see what I want you to see. She shook her head. I thought you'd notice when I started pulling away, when I stopped eating, when I couldn't get out of bed. I thought you'd see it, and you'd help me the way I helped you. I'm sorry, but you were too busy with Marcus, too busy being in love, too busy finally having your own life to notice that mine was falling apart. I took a step toward her. Give me the pills, Natalie, please. We can talk about this. I don't want to talk. She stood up suddenly. I want to go to the lake. What? The lake, Lake Champlain, where we took that picture freshman year, remember? You said it was the first time you ever felt free. I remembered. Of course I remembered. If we go to the lake, she said, if you give me one more good memory, maybe that'll be enough. Maybe I can hold on to that. Every instinct told me to call someone, her parents, the campus counselor, anyone who could help more than I could. But Natalie was looking at me with those desperate eyes, asking for something only I could give. Okay, I said, let's go to the lake. We drove through the night, Natalie in the passenger seat, clutching the bottle of pills she'd refused to surrender, me behind the wheel, terrified and exhausted and completely out of my depth. We should call someone, I said for the dozenth time. Your parents, or... My parents don't know about any of this. They can't know. Her voice was flat. They think I'm perfect. They need me to be perfect. Natalie, just drive, Sarah, please. Just get me to the lake. So I drove. Through the darkness, through my fear, through the growing certainty that I was doing this all wrong. We arrived at dawn. The lake was mirror still, mist rising off the water like something from a dream. Natalie got out of the car and walked to the end of the dock, the same dock where we'd taken that photograph 3 years earlier. I followed her, kept my distance, didn't know what else to do. It's beautiful, she said. I'd forgotten how beautiful it is. Nat, please give me the pills. Why? She turned to face me. What difference does it make? If I don't use these, I'll find another way. I've been fighting for so long, Sarah. I'm so tired. I know you are, but there's help. I don't want help. Her voice cracked. I want it to stop. The darkness, the emptiness, the feeling that nothing I do will ever be enough. She looked at me. You don't understand. You can't understand. You've never felt like this. She was right. I hadn't. And standing there, watching my best friend unravel, I realized how badly I'd failed her. Tell me what you need, I said. Anything. I'll do anything. I need you to let me go. I can't do that. Then you never really loved me at all. The words cut deeper than any knife. Here's where I need to pause and ask you something. If you were in my position, standing on that dock, watching your best friend hold a bottle of pills, knowing that anything you did might push her over the edge, what would you have done? Would you have grabbed the pills, called for help, tried to talk her down? I've played this moment over in my head 1,000 times, and I still don't know if there was a right answer. Tell me in the comments what you would have done. I need to know I'm not the only one who wouldn't have known. I'm going to swim, Natalie said suddenly. One last swim, like we used to. Then, then we'll see. Before I could stop her, she stripped off her clothes and dove into the water. Natalie! She surfaced 20 feet from the dock, laughing. Actually laughing, the way she used to before everything went wrong. Come in. It's freezing. Come back, please. Just one swim, Sarah. One good memory. Then I promise we'll talk. I should have gone in after her, should have dragged her back to shore, called 911, done something. Instead, I stood there, paralyzed, watching her swim further and further from the dock. Natalie, come back. You're too far out. She didn't answer, just kept swimming, her strokes getting weaker, the cold water sapping her strength. Natalie! She went under. I waited for her to come back up. She didn't. The police ruled it an accidental drowning. Natalie Chen, 21 years old, died of hypothermia after swimming in Lake Champlain in early May, when the water temperature was barely 50 degrees. Witnesses, me, the only witness, reported that she'd gone swimming voluntarily and been unable to make it back to shore. No mention of the pills. I'd thrown them in the lake before calling 911. No mention of her depression. Her parents didn't know, and I didn't tell them. No mention of the fact that I'd watched my best friend swim to her death and done nothing to stop her. The official story was a tragedy, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, taken too soon by a reckless decision and cold water. The real story was murder. Not legally. I hadn't pushed her in, hadn't held her under, hadn't done anything that would hold up in court. But I'd watched her die. I'd known she was struggling, known she was suicidal, known that taking her to that lake was the worst possible decision, and I'd done it anyway. Because she asked me to, because I was too weak to say no, because some part of me, some shameful, secret part, was relieved that the problem would finally be solved. I didn't attend her funeral, couldn't face her parents, her brother, anyone who'd loved her. I packed up my things, left Bradford 3 weeks before graduation, and never looked back. That summer, I became someone else. I changed my name, legally, permanently. Sarah Mitchell, a person with no history, no connections to Bradford University, or Natalie Chen, or the girl who'd let her friend die. I moved across the country, got a job, built a new life from scratch. And I buried the old one so deep that sometimes I almost forgot it existed. Almost. But the guilt never went away. It just burrowed deeper, found new places to hide, emerged in nightmares and panic attacks and a constant low-grade terror that someone, someday, would discover what I'd done. Then I met Michael. He was kind, stable, everything I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. He didn't ask questions about my past, didn't push when I deflected, seemed content to love the person I was now without knowing who I'd been before. We got married, had children, built a life that looked perfect from the outside, and every single day, I waited for it to fall apart. Present day. She drowned, I told Michael. We went to the lake, she went swimming, and she didn't come back. I'd given him the bones of the story, not everything, not the pills, not the conversation on the dock, not the months of warning signs I'd ignored, just enough to explain the photograph, the secrecy, the name I'd left behind. Michael listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. That's why you changed your name? Yes. Because you blamed yourself? I let her die, Michael. I knew she was suicidal. I knew she shouldn't be in that water, and I just stood there. You were 21. You didn't know what to do. That's not an excuse. No, but it's an explanation. He set down the photograph. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I thought you'd leave me if you knew. Because, my voice broke, because I've spent 17 years trying to be someone who deserves a life like this, and telling you meant admitting that I don't. Michael stood up, crossed the room, took my face in his hands. Sarah, look at me. I looked. You're not that person anymore. You made a terrible mistake, but you've spent 17 years trying to be better. That counts for something. Does it? It counts for everything. He held me while I cried, held me the way he'd held me through labor, through my father's death, through every crisis of our marriage, like I was something precious, something worth protecting. When I finally stopped crying, he pulled back and looked at me. There's something I need to tell you too. My blood went cold. What? I knew about Natalie. The words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. That's impossible. I never told anyone. You didn't have to tell me. He took a deep breath. Sarah, my last name isn't Mitchell. It's Chen. The room tilted. I'm Natalie's brother. The next hour was a blur. Michael, not anymore, someone else entirely, sat across from me and explained everything. How he'd found out about Natalie's death, how he'd spent years researching what really happened, how he'd tracked me down, changed his own name, inserted himself into my life with surgical precision. I wanted to understand, he said. I needed to know who you were, what really happened that night. So you married me? I couldn't process it. You had children with me? It wasn't supposed to go that far. He ran a hand through his hair. I was just going to get close to you, learn the truth. But then I actually got to know you, and what? You fell in love with your sister's killer? You're not her killer, Sarah. That's what I learned. That's what I've known for years. I let her die. You were a 21-year-old kid dealing with a suicidal friend. You made bad decisions, but you didn't kill her. His voice was fierce. Natalie's illness killed her. The stigma that kept her from getting help killed her. The pressure she felt to be perfect killed her, not you. Then why? I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't wrap my mind around any of this. Why did I marry you? He leaned forward. Because I saw who you really were, not the monster you'd made yourself into in your own head, just a person who'd been through something terrible and was trying to survive. You should have told me. When? On our first date? At our wedding? He shook his head. There was never a right time, and the longer I waited, the harder it became. 17 years, Michael. 17 years of lying. I know. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to understand. He reached for my hand. I flinched away. Our whole marriage is a lie. No, the circumstances of how we met are a lie. But everything else, falling in love with you, building a life with you, raising our children, that was all real. I stood up, needed to move, to breathe, to get away from this man I'd thought I knew. I need time. Take whatever you need. The kids are at my mother's until Sunday. We have 3 days to figure this out. His mother, Natalie's mother, the woman I'd been calling Mom for 15 years, was the mother of the girl I'd let die. Does she know? Your mother? She figured it out about 5 years ago. The resemblance between you and the girl in Natalie's photos, it became harder to hide. And she didn't say anything? She agreed with me that you weren't to blame, that Natalie made her own choice. His voice was soft. She said if Natalie had to die, at least some good came from it. Our children, our life together. The woman you became because of the woman you lost. I walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, out the front door, and I kept walking until I couldn't walk anymore. I spent 2 days at a motel, didn't call Michael, didn't call the kids, just lay on a lumpy mattress and stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything I thought I knew. My husband was Natalie's brother. He'd sought me out deliberately, married me knowing exactly who I was and what I'd done. Our entire relationship was built on a deception that made my own secrets look trivial. I should have been furious, should have filed for divorce, taken the kids, never spoken to him again. But I couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said, about Natalie's illness killing her, about the person I'd become being separate from the person I'd been. On the third day, I drove to the cemetery. I'd never visited Natalie's grave, never even knew where she was buried. But Michael had told me once, years ago, in a conversation I now understood differently, about the family plot in Millbrook, Connecticut. It took me 3 hours to find it. Natalie Marie Chen, 1983 to 2004. Beloved daughter, sister, friend. She lit up every room she entered. I knelt in front of the headstone, touched the cold marble. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I couldn't save you." The wind rustled through the trees. No answer. I hadn't expected one. I've spent 17 years hating myself for what happened, 17 years trying to become someone who deserved to keep living when you didn't. I wiped my eyes. "But I don't think that's what you would have wanted. You always told me to be brave, to stop apologizing for existing." I pulled out the photograph, the one Michael had found, the one that had started all of this. 2 girls on a dock, young and hopeful, with no idea what was coming. I'm going to try to be brave now. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm going to try. I tucked the photograph against the base of the headstone, let Natalie keep it. When I stood up, there was a woman standing at the edge of the cemetery, Michael's mother, Margaret Chen. She walked toward me slowly, stopped a few feet away. "Michael called me," she said, "told me you'd probably come here." "I should have come years ago." "Yes, you should have." Her voice was matter-of-fact, not cruel. "But you're here now. That counts for something." "Does it?" She looked at the headstone, at her daughter's name carved in marble. Natalie was sick for a long time, longer than any of us knew. She hid it well, too well. By the time we understood how serious it was, she was already gone. I could have saved her? No, Margaret's voice was firm. You couldn't. Nobody could. I've spent 20 years coming to terms with that. And now I'm telling you, Natalie made her choice. She made it long before that night at the lake. But if you'd called 911, she would have been hospitalized, released, found another way. Margaret shook her head. I've played every scenario in my mind. None of them end differently. My daughter wanted to die, and eventually she found a way. The words were brutal in their honesty. So why did Michael seek you out? Because he needed to understand. Because grief makes us do strange things. Because he couldn't accept that his sister's death was just meaningless. She sighed. He found you looking for someone to blame. What he found instead was someone to love. How can you accept this? Any of this? Because the alternative is losing my son too, losing my grandchildren, losing the only good thing that came out of the worst moment of my life. She stepped closer. I'm not asking you to forgive Michael for what he did. I'm asking you to consider that maybe, just maybe, some deceptions come from a place of love. She handed me an envelope. This is from Natalie. She wrote it the week before she died. I found it in her things, but I couldn't bring myself to read it, not until Michael told me about you. I took the envelope. My name, my old name, Emily Brennan, was written on the front in Natalie's handwriting. "She meant it for you," Margaret said. "I think you should finally read it." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me alone with my best friend's last words. I read the letter in my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the paper. "Dear Emily, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but it's all I have. I need you to understand something. What's going to happen isn't your fault. It was never your fault. The darkness in me has been there since long before I met you, and it's going to be there until the end. You've been the best friend I've ever had, the only person who ever made me feel like maybe I could survive this. These 3 years with you have been the happiest of my life, not because you fixed me, but because you made me feel less alone. I know you're going to blame yourself. That's who you are. You carry everyone else's pain because you think it's your responsibility. But this pain isn't yours to carry. It's mine. It's always been mine. Please don't let my death destroy your life. That would be the real tragedy. You have so much potential, so much love to give, so much life ahead of you. Don't waste it on guilt over something you couldn't have changed. I want you to be brave, Em. Not for me, for yourself. Find someone who loves you. Build a life that makes you happy. And when you think of me, don't remember the end. Remember the beginning. Remember 2 girls on a dock, feeling free for the first time. That's the Natalie I want you to keep. I love you. I've always loved you. And wherever I'm going, I'll be watching, I'll be cheering you on, I'll be so proud of everything you become. Be brave, Emily. Forever your friend, Natalie. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat there, tears streaming down my face, as something inside me finally broke open. She'd known. She'd known what she was going to do, and she'd written this letter to absolve me before I even needed absolution. All these years, I'd been carrying guilt that Natalie had never wanted me to carry. I drove home. Michael was sitting on the porch when I pulled into the driveway. He stood up when he saw me, his face uncertain. "Sarah?" I walked up to him and handed him the letter. "Read it." He read. I watched his face, watched grief and love and something like peace move across his features. "She wanted you to be happy," he said when he finished. "She wanted me to be brave. Are you?" I thought about the question, about everything I'd been through, everything I'd survived, the lies I'd told and the lies I'd been told, and the truth that had finally come to light. "I'm trying to be." Michael reached for my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. "I know I have a lot to make up for," he said. 17 years of deception. I understand if you can't forgive me. If you want a divorce, I won't fight you." "I don't want a divorce." "You don't?" "I want the truth, all of it. No more secrets, no more lies, no more protecting each other from things we have a right to know." "I can do that. And I want to tell our children, when they're old enough, about Natalie, about how we really met, about all of it." "Are you sure?" "They deserve to know where they come from, even the painful parts." I squeezed his hand, especially the painful parts. We stood there on the porch, 2 people who'd been lying to each other for 17 years, finally telling the truth. "I loved her," Michael said. "Natalie. She was my big sister, and I adored her." "I know. But I love you too, differently, not because of her, not in spite of her, just because of who you are. Even though I let her die." "You didn't let her die, Sarah. You let her go. There's a difference." He pulled me into his arms. "And now I'm asking you to let go of the guilt too. For her, for us, for the life we still have ahead of us." I thought of Natalie's letter, of her final wish for me. "Be brave, Emily." "Okay," I said. "I'll try." So that's my story. The real reason I never told my husband about my past. and the shocking truth about why he already knew. But I want to hear from you. After everything you've read, do you think Michael was wrong to deceive me? Or was his deception an act of love, a way of finding peace with his sister's death while building something new? And here's the harder question. Have you ever kept a secret from someone you love because you thought the truth would destroy them? Or has someone kept a secret from you thinking they were protecting you? Tell me in the comments. Share your story, as much or as little as you're comfortable with. Because I've learned something through all of this. The secrets we keep to protect people often hurt them more than the truth ever could. Natalie asked me to be brave. For 17 years, I thought that meant hiding from my past, from my guilt, from the person I used to be. Now I know better. Being brave means telling the truth, even when it's hard, even when it might cost you everything, especially then.